Hello! I'm really excited about this week. And last week, I didn't dive into the scriptures as much as I usually do, as you probably noticed. Mostly because a lot of it was just very self-explanatory. And I did want to keep the videos a little bit shorter last week. This week, as I've been studying all that is going to happen in this week, at first, I had a really hard time with it. I didn't know what I was reading. I didn't understand what I was doing. I didn't really understand it fully. And so I was kind of confused and feeling a little bit discouraged, like, who am I to get on a camera and put this up, teaching people about these scriptures that I don't necessarily understand fully myself. So there's a lot of prayer happening. There was a lot of study happening. There's a lot of questions. So, but as I really studied this and dove into it, because I have this tendency sometimes with the scriptures, and I'm sure all of us do, that when we don't understand something, we just kind of gloss over it and go to the next thing that we really deeply understand. And maybe that's in all of life, right? We're really good at understanding what we can understand. And sometimes it's hard to understand the things that we don't. And so I guess just to preface this whole video, I've done a lot of studying on this, and it's been a really cool week to study all of it. So I'm excited to share it all with you. So first things first, let's come to our breath. Bring your hands to heart center. I'm just going to sitting down. You're welcome to join me here. And we're just going to start to inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Just start to bring that breath into your body. Bring new oxygen into the body. A lot of things happened last week, one of which I went to an event with Emily Bell Freeman. And she is one of my very, very favorites. As you can see, I've mentioned her and David Butler a couple times with their videos, Don't Miss This. And they go into Come Follow Me each week. Keep going with your breath as I talk. And so she is just one of my favorite people who talk about the gospel, because she talks about it in such a way that is very relatable, and you see a whole new perspective when she talks, and she has this love, this deep love for everything in the scriptures that we're reading, and she kind of brings it to life a little bit. She's just so good. And every time I hear her talk, I really have this longing to understand the gospel in a way that she does. So with that, at the beginning of my week last week, I really kind of dove into this thinking, how can I really, really understand this and not be so confused? Yeah, to the point where I'm just like, I'm just loving it, because there's that line of, I don't understand this, I want to understand this, and then I love this, and there's so much in here. And I wanted to get to that point, and I feel like I have. And obviously there's so much more studying throughout life. So, there's still so much, but I'm excited to dive into it. So as you're coming to your breath, we're gonna introduce Isaiah a little bit. Because all of these chapters, 11 through 25, which is a kind of a big chunk this week. So as we study these chapters, it's talking all about Isaiah and what he talked about in the Bible. And it dawned on me that there has to be a real love from God to Isaiah if he puts Isaiah both in the Bible and the Book of Mormon. Also, 2 Nephi 25:4, in it says, the words of Isaiah are not plain, which really resonated with me, because as I was just kind of struggling to even understand this, it's true. His words are not very self-explanatory in these chapters, And I mean, I felt like I read a verse and I would just sit there and think, I don't understand what that even means. He uses words in here that just are not very familiar, I guess. It's a different way of saying it. And even from Nephi, I felt like Nephi was very understandable. Anyway, so we're going to kind of go into this, and we're going to mix it up a little bit this week from what we've done in previous weeks. This week, I'm going to kind of jump around all over the place. So before we begin, I also wanted to tell you that you might want to go grab your Book of Mormon while we go through this, because it's been really fun for me to write notes and write certain things in the margins, and just follow along where, like, I found certain things here and then over here and then, in all these different chapters. So we're not just going to go through like 11, 12, 13, 14 today like we usually do and just do chronicle chunks of chapters. This time I'm just going to take the chunk of chapters 11 through 25 and we're going to jump around and talk about topics while we do that. Okay, so I hope you're all coming to your breath while I'm talking. There's a lot this week, and I'm so excited. It'll be so fun. Okay. Let's inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. When you're ready, keeping your breath alive, we're going to bring our feet to the outer edges of our hips. Our heels are in towards our hips, and our toes are pointing outward at about a 45-degree angle. So we're here. This is called a yogi squat. And if this is where you are, great, stay here. If you want a little bit more of a stretch, you can bring your elbows to the inside of that thigh, not the knee, the thigh, and bring your hands together, and it kind of just pulls those legs back even more. Okay. So there are 3 topics that I really want to go into this week, and I'll just name them. So today is Satan's attack. We're going to talk all about Satan, and then tomorrow we're going to talk about the offense and defense in the gospel, and then on Thursday we're going to talk about God wins. So basically this whole thing is like a football or basketball game. That's kind of how I see it. Isaiah is basically teaching all the people about his prophecies in Christ. And we're in our previous chapters, like last week, we kind of introduced Christ into the Book of Mormon a lot more. And now we're bringing Isaiah in because he's one of God's favorite prophets. I mean, I'm sure all of them are favorites. But I think he's one of God's favorites because he really testifies of Christ. He manifests of him and his coming, and gives basically our whole outline of life in these chapters. So we'll talk about Satan's attack, and this is where our, we'll say football, football, basketball game starts, right? It's Satan against God. And so Satan comes in and starts attacking. And okay, from here we're going to take our left hand and place it on our right ankle. And then this arm is going to come up. So we're just going to come into a twist and see how my left shoulder here is on the inside of that thigh. I'm just bringing it all the way back and really stretching here. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Bring it back down, switching sides. Grab that left ankle with the right hand and come up. Take 3 breaths. And come back down. This time I'm going to turn so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. But I'm staying in my squat. This time my left hand is gonna just come back onto the ground. My fingers are facing the back, my back wall. And I'm gonna lift my hips, just like this, and that right arm is gonna come all the way up and over. It feels so good. And inhale here, take a couple breaths. Okay, so Satan's attack, we're gonna start in chapter 12, and we're gonna start in verse 7. So go there. I guess it's kind of hard to go there while you're doing yoga. Switching hands, right palm down, fingers facing backwards. Lift the hips, left arm out and over. So now, after you've taken a couple breaths here, you can then start to kind of flow with it. Ready? So inhale, come up. Exhale, come down. Other side, inhale up. And exhale down. See that? So keep going with that flow for a minute. So in chapter 12, verse 7, their land is also full of silver and gold, neither is there any end of treasure. The land is also full of horses, there's no end of chariots. They're full of idols that they worship, and by the work of their own hands. So that's the first time we really hear about Satan coming in and basically like showing them that their gold and silver are worth more than anything. Okay, so now come back down into your yogi squat. And we're going to place our palms on the mat, and this one, we are going to come into a forward fold. You can bring your feet back together a little bit, about hip width distance apart. Kind of stretch here for a minute. So then we go to chapter 13 in verse 1 through 3. And I'm not going to read all of these, but basically this is where Satan is like, there's man over God. You should, what does he say? There's a mighty man, and you should look at the man over God. And then in verse 5 and 6, there's a lot of disrespect. And then verse 9, he talks about how you should be open and proud of the evil in the world. Okay, from here, place your palms on the ground or your mat and bring both feet back into high plank pose. And then, not very long, we're going to just bring our right leg all the way out to the outside of that right palm. Okay? So both hands are on the inside of that leg. And from here, we're just going to come into lizard pose. So there are a couple modifications here. If you would like, you can stay here. If you would like even better modification, you can bring that back leg, that back knee down to the ground here. You can also come down for a little bit more of a stretch here, or for a little bit harder, you can bring that knee back up and go on your forearms here. And then if you want a little bit more, I don't know if you can see this, I'll turn a little bit for you guys. You can kind of push on that leg a little bit. Can you see that? And just bring it out. You're not pushing on the knee. You're just guiding that leg outward just a little bit. For an even bigger inner thigh stretch. And then if you want to come down here, you can do that too. So wherever you are. And then verse 14. We're in chapter 13, verse 14. Satan, he talks about taking advantage of the poor. And then 16 through 24, he talks all about this outward appearance, that you should care so much about this outward appearance and how you're looking. And I mean, that's a big chunk of scripture, right? 16 through 24. He just keeps going. All these jewels and the earrings and the apparel and the wimples and the fine linen and the hoods and the veils. Like, he names all these things, which is so relevant to our day and age, right? Okay, bring that right leg back. I'm going to straighten myself out a little bit. And then left leg comes out to the outside of that left palm and come back to wherever you were. Which is so relevant, right? I mean, Social media. There's so much good on social media. I really, really believe that. I also really believe that there are things that are twisted, and comparing our lives and our outfits and our outward appearance is a very real struggle in our day and age. Okay, and then so going on to chapter 15, verse 20, Satan gives a mixed message that evil is good and good is evil, which is all totally what we deal with today. And then verse 21, Satan talks about how you should be learned but not wise. And then 24, he talks about how to despise, or how you should despise the commandments. And I think that is all for Satan. And then, so he talks about all these, like, here is Satan, and I'm coming, and I will alter things that you think you believe. Okay, bring that left leg back. You're in high plank again. This time, we're going to bring our right leg up to the outside of that palm again. This time our left knee is going to come down, and bring yourself back and just straighten that front knee all the way. This is called half splits. If you want to come into full splits, you're more than welcome to. But even in full splits, we haven't stretched out these nice hamstrings completely yet. So even that might be a stretch. You really want to just make sure your body is okay with whatever you're putting it in. That your muscles are not going to be torn. And I kind of picture this whole thing. Okay, let's just switch sides. I'm going to just come into downward dog, switch legs, bring that right knee down this time, and come back and straighten the left. I picture this whole thing like a football or basketball game, right? And where you're rooting for a certain team, and the other team comes in and just thinks that they own the place. And they do, they like, you know, a lot of sports games especially, they just come in with so much confidence, which is so good in sports. But Satan does the same thing. He comes in, I just picture this, like, you know, this vision of him just coming in and owning the court, feeling like he just owns the people, with so much confidence to betray and wreak havoc. Okay, come back into downward dog. We're just going to bring that leg all the way back. Hips up. I just like inhaled my hair. Okay. And then from here let's just come into sitting. Yeah, we'll just come into sitting. I was going to do some pigeon pose. Maybe we'll do that another day when we can really open our hips, because that's a little bit of an intense one. We're going to come into fire log sitting position. So right now my left leg is on top. And from here, let's just do a little twist. Our left hand is going to be placed on the outer right thigh, and just twist. Inhale, center, other side. Inhale, center. Switch legs. Whatever leg was on top, put it on the bottom. And vice versa. Let's go the same way. So I'm taking my left hand on the outer right thigh. You can tell in these poses, if you inhale, and so do this with me, come to center. Inhale here, and exhale as you twist. Just wring out all the air. And then in every yoga pose where we sit in it for a little bit, where you have multiple breaths in that pose, you can come out of the pose just a little bit and inhale, and then go deeper into it on every exhale. And you can feel your stomach just wring everything out when you exhale. So inhale and exhale. Okay, switch sides. Inhale, center, and exhale. So here I'm going to inhale, go a little bit out of it. Give room for that air, and then exhale. Okay, come back to center. Okay, so that is our first topic. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about our offense and defense while playing our football, basketball game. And then we'll talk about who wins. I'm sure you can probably guess, but it's a good one. Okay, so just come back to a neutral seated position, whatever you prefer. And come back to the breath for a minute. So maybe, as I was kind of reading all of these things, and I marked all of them, obviously in my scriptures, you can go back and do the same and just mark all of them. And as you do, just kind of think about where you have seen this kind of thought process with Satan in your own life. Where things have seemed really good and maybe they're not, or where you've been pressured in a certain way. I don't know. Because like for me, social media really stuck out, and just the outward appearance that we talked about. But there's so many things in there that I was like, yeah, like movies and, all the marketing and all, just everything around us, there's so much. Inhale and exhale. I will see you tomorrow. The light in me honors and loves the light within you. Namaste.